Okay. So in our last lecture, we were discussing about the near procedure, far procedure, and how the near procedure would only change the instruction pointer register, whereas far procedure would change both the segment register as well as the IP registers value. Okay. So, and we have also discussed about the call instruction as well as the return instruction. We can have a near call or far call. Similarly, we can have either the, if we are returning back from the near procedure, then it would be a near return. And if it is we are returning from a far procedure, then it would be a far return. Okay. So based upon that, we'll see one or two programs, how to write a near procedure or how to write a far procedure, that we'll see. So before that, we'll continue with, is the screen visible to you? Okay. And we also discussed about how the parameters can be passed to a procedure. Either it can be passed through the registers, or it can be passed through the memory location, or it can be passed as a pointer, or it can be passed through the stack. So all these things we have discussed, and I will be continuing further with an example. So we'll see an example of how the parameters are passed through the stack, and we have discussed that in our last lecture. If the parameter is passed through the stack, then we the stack pointer should be pointed in the proper way to access those parameters. So this can be illustrated using this example. Say suppose again we want to convert a binary number to its corresponding BCD value. Okay, so here this is the example in which we are passing the parameter using stack. Fine. So you can see that some the binary number is provided into the variable num, which is declared into the data segment. So this part is my code segment. Here I haven't written all those assembler directives which is used for the code segment. So move ax comma num, that means the number whose conversion has to be carried out, that we are copying it into an AX register. Then as I said, we are passing the parameter using stack. So those parameters should be placed into the stack, so that we are performing by this operation push AX instruction. Okay. Then calling the function which would convert a binary number to its corresponding BCD value. Fine. So when it calls, the IP value would be, so since it is a near call, the IP value would be pushed onto the stack. So you can see that this is my procedure, bin underscore count. So this is the name of the procedure. Fine. And proc is my assembler directive, which indicates that this is a start of a procedure. And since it is a near procedure, I have to write here near. If it would be a far procedure, then we are supposed to write here far. Followed? Then what I want is none of the registers values should be changed while we come back from the procedure to the main program. So to retain those registers value as well as the flags status of the flag, I am pushing it into the stack. Okay, so push F. So flag current status of flag would be pushed onto the stack. So this is done because in the procedure we are reusing all these registers, and if we are reusing this, it might be possible that the content of the register would be modified. So to retain my registers value intact, okay, while coming back to the main program, we are storing it into the stack by push F, push AX, push BX, push CX, etc. Okay, even SI, DI, all of them can be pushed. So this is just an example how it is pushed. Okay. So we are also pushing the current value of base pointer register. Fine. So now what happens, let me. So here what happens? So this is my stack. Okay, so this is the base of the stack segment, and the stack pointer would always be pointing to the top of the stack. Fine. So push AX. So initially this push AX. So AX stack pointer would be decremented, and the AX register, that is the num value which is there into the AX, that would be placed into the stack. Then the next step is call binary count, call this procedure. So if your procedure is called, what happens? If the procedure is called, near procedure is called, the IP value would be placed onto the stack. So here these two locations contains the IP value. Do you agree to this, all of you? You can unmute yourself and you can reply, because I'm unable to see your chats. Okay, once this is done, the control of the program would move to this procedure. So then the flag register would be pushed onto the stack. So this is my flag. Then AX is pushed. So this is my AX. So since I want to retain my registers value as it is, I am pushing it into the various into the stack. So this is CX, then comes BP. So assume that SS is here because there is no space. Okay, and this is my, assume that this is my base pointer register. Now the data actually it is present at this memory location. Okay, so what we will be doing is move AX comma within the bracket BP plus 12. 12 because here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Move AX comma within the bracket BP plus 12. So BP's content is placed here. Here the current value of BP, let it be 0. So BP plus 12. It should be, I have to copy this value into my AX register, because this is the value where I have placed my variable num. So 1, 2, 3, 11, 12. Or here it should be 14, then 13, 14. So this value I have to copy it into the stack. So this is the mistake here. So that means the content of BP, the current value of BP plus 14, or this much displacement, whatever we are having, that gives me the variable, the data which is there into the num. So that value we are copying it into the AX register, perform the conversion as we have discussed earlier. Once the conversion is over, assume that the result of that conversion is again into the AX register. So that AX register's value, once again we are copying it into this memory location. Are you getting this? Okay. Then once it is done, we are doing pop BP, pop CX, the reverse order. Okay. So we are retrieving those registers value back into those respective registers. As we know that it is last in first out type of arrangement in the stack. Okay, so the last one is pop F. So as we are popping it, the stack pointer value would be incremented. So if you observe in the push and pop operation, you might observe that. So when it may reach at this particular point, and when we get this return instruction, the top of the stack which contains this return address which is stored pushed onto the stack during the call instruction would be retrieved into the IP register, and the procedure ends here. Then the control of the program moves here. In this step, what we have done is the AX register's value, we are copying it into the BP plus 12. Okay, so BP plus 12 is pointing to this address. Followed? Then we are performing pop AX. So stack pointer is pointing here, and in case of pop AX, the converted value which is stored into this BP plus 12, so that would be popped into the AX register, and then we can store the AL register, that is the converted value, into this variable count. Okay, hope this is clear, everyone. Hello. this is how the parameter is passed using this stack. But the thing is that to retrieve those parameters, I have to use this BP base pointer register with certain displacement so that it points to the current value of the stack. If we return then bin count NP is executed. Wait. Okay. So this is an instruction, and NP is an assembler directive. So the instruction is meant for the processor, and this assembler directive is meant for the assembler to indicate that it is end of the program. Are you getting the? It is something like you are providing braces in your program. Okay, so the braces would not be used as a if you are calling a function, there you might be writing return, and also you are providing the braces. Okay, why you are providing the braces? To show that it is the end of that segment or end of that procedure. Are you getting me? In high level language, you are providing the braces even after the return. This is because to show that it is the end of that procedure or end of the function. Yes, yes, understood. So that has to be initialized by the user, Dev. Got it? Hello, is this thing clear, everyone? Okay. So that we'll see as we go further. We'll write some program for the far procedure. At present, let me complete with the near procedure. Fine. So these procedures can be reentrant or recursive procedure. Okay. So the reentrant procedure means what? The procedure can be interrupted. That means through that procedure, one more procedure can be called. It is used and re-entered without losing or writing any over anything. That means we can see this. Okay, this is my main program. Here, some procedure is called procedure 1. Fine. So procedure 1 is here. It calls within this. This is my entire procedure 1. Within this procedure, it may call the second procedure, say procedure 2. Fine. This procedure 2, once again, it may call this procedure 1. Now, when it re-enters, all this, the registers value or all these parameters would already been pushed. Or else what happens? If it calls once again this procedure 1, it may change the current value of all those registers. Okay. So if it is pushed into the stack, okay, while it re-enters into this procedure 1, and once again it would execute this procedure 1. Okay, so without affecting the earlier status of this procedure 1. Are you getting this? So such procedures are known as a reentrant procedures. Got it? So the mainline program is calling procedure 1. Fine, some steps have been performed by this procedure 1, and within this it may call one more procedure, say procedure 2. And procedure 2, once again, if it calls procedure 1, the earlier status of the procedure 1 might be lost. To keep this procedure 1's parameters intact, okay, so before calling this procedure 2, all those registers value would be pushed onto the stack. Fine. And this procedure 1 might be called, and it would process this. While it returns from this procedure 2, all the pushed value, whatever is there into the stack, is popped, and then it would continue with this procedure. Okay, if we want to use any register, then also yes, because the registers are common. Okay, registers are common. So the same registers are used either in the main program or the procedures. So even if I want to use or reuse any of the registers, then I have to push it onto the stack. Got it, all of you? This is a re-entrant procedure. In the recursive procedure, the function which calls itself is known as a recursive procedure, which you all are aware. Okay. So a recursive procedure can also be a re-entrant procedure, provided it all the registers value would be pushed before calling itself. Okay. So this is about the recursive procedure and the re-entrant procedures. Now, before going further with the procedures, we'll see how to use the FAR procedure. Okay, for to using the FAR, how to write the FAR procedure. For doing so, there are some more assembler directives which are required for the FAR procedure. We'll go further. So every segment directive, you know that segment is an assembler directive. Every time we used to write data segment, code segment. So segment is an assembler directive. But this segment directive it can also be provided by two type specifiers. Two type specifiers we can have with this segment directive. Till now we are not using those. We were not using those specifiers, but now in FAR procedure we may use it. Okay, so how to declare it, we'll see. We have to write down the name of the segment as we write for the data segment or code segment. The name of the segment should be provided. Then the directive, assembler directive, that segment should be provided. So this is my assembler directive segment. Okay, and these are the two type specifiers, word as well as public. Word refers to, indicates that the segment should be located in the memory with the next even address. If I write word, then this segment should be provided into the memory with the next even address. Wherever it has the next even address, my segment would start from there onwards. Then this is an assembler, public is an assembler directive or type specifier, which indicates that this particular segment can be used by some other other segment which is defined in another assembler in the another assembler module, assembly module. That means you are having two different .asm programs. If I write public, then this segment can be accessed by another the program. Okay, so the word indicates that the segment should be located in memory at next available in even address, whereas public indicates that this segment combined with the other segment. I can combine this segment, the name of this segment, whatever is there. If I provide the same name in another segment, which is another assembly program, then I can combine, I can link both these segments together. Okay, if I provide this directive as or type specifier as public. So public indicates that this segment is combined with the other segment in the other assembly module. So here we are writing two different assembly module. So one assembly module segment can be combined with the other assembly module, with both of them should be having the same name. Okay, is this thing clear? I can write two different .asm programs, two different code segments I can write, because in one ASM program, one code segment would be there. The other ASM program might be having the other code segment. These two code segments, if they are having the same name, they can be combined together, provided if I write public in them with this type segment assembler directive. Are you getting this? Hello. Okay, with same name, if you are having, two programs can be combined together if it is having same same name of the segment, and we can provided we are writing here with the type specifier as public. Okay, so public directive. The public directive is used to publicly declare the entries like variables, procedures, etc. Fine. So for example, if I write public name1 comma name2, that means say suppose I am having two different say suppose I am having a data segment. I will show you with this. Okay, so what I can write, say suppose and I declare some n1 defined by 5, okay, and data ends, and I may have code segment, okay, and so on. Okay, now this variable n1, say suppose this is my x1.asm. I may have one more module x2.asm. Okay, let n1 is my variable which is declared in x1, and n1 can be used in this also. If I link these two, I can use the variables interchangeably. So what I have to do, I have to declare this n1 public. Okay, I have to write public n1. Okay, whereas, are you able to get it? Here I am indicating that my variable n1 is public, fine. And if the variable n1 is declared public in this assembly module, and if I'm using n1 somewhere here in code segment, I can use n1 in this, move, say suppose al comma n1. So if I'm using n1, which I haven't declared into the data segment of this, I can declare this n1 as extern. If I write extern, it implies that this variable n1 is not currently declared into the data segment of this module, but it is external to this module. Okay, are you getting this? How about others? Yes, to declare that it is public, that means you can have the variables, or you can have the name of the procedure. It might be possible that I can have call procedure 1. Okay, and the procedure 1 might have been declared into this code segment, procedure 1 proc par, fine. This procedure is declared here into this code segment. Now this procedure 1 has to be declared as public. Okay, so I have to declare this procedure 1 public procedure 1, whereas here I have to indicate that this procedure 1 which I am calling here, it is not in this, so I have to write extern proc1 colon far. Okay, that means if I am calling here, I have to indicate that this particular procedure named proc1 is not present into this code segment, but it is external to this code segment, and it is declared as a far one. Okay, so this is how you can show that whether it is a near procedure or a far procedure. Okay, so the public is directive is used to publicly declare the entries like variables. As I said, if it is of type byte, I have to write n1 colon byte. Here you should not write db. Here you have to write byte. If it is of type word, I have to write n2 colon word, and so on. Okay, you have to declare the variables or the procedures. It informs the assembler that the entries specified are accessible from the other assembly module. The whatever I declare here as a public, these can be used by some other assembly module. Is this thing clear, all of you? Whereas the other assembly module, if it is using those variables or the procedure, then it has to declare it as extern. Okay. So for example, public says, suppose this is my variable name, name1, name2, and so on. The extern directive, it informs the assembler that the specified entities used in this module are defined in another assembly module. Those are not declared here, but it is declared somewhere in some other assembly module. So the example is extern name1 colon type. You have to write down what is the type of that particular variable. If it is of type byte, you have to write byte. If it is of type word, you have to write word, and so on. So you can see that extern num colon word. Okay, and you are writing here the name of the procedure and write down here it as a far. That means it is a this is the name of the procedure which is of type far. Okay, so these are the assembler directives which are used while we are writing a far procedure. Hope you all are getting this thing. How about others? Now, one more assembler directive is label. The label directive is used to give a name to the current value in the location counter. So as I said, as we have the instruction pointer, which is used by the processor to point to the to point to the memory location of the instruction which it has to process. Similarly, the assembler uses this location counter. They'll keep the track of currently which at what address the assembler is pointing. So that is indicated by this location counter. Followed? So for example, here you can see that usually whenever we are declaring the code segment or the data segment, we used to write here the name of the segment as well as a segment. That's all. Okay. But if you want to declare a segment as a stack, then I have to write here the name of the segment, then the assembler directive segment, and we have to declare here, we have to show that this segment is a stack segment, and to indicate that I have to write here stack. Are you getting this? I cannot write as in the earlier data as well as code segment. We used to write here data segment, code segment. But here I cannot write the name of the stack segment as stack segment, because this is an assembler directive which shows that this part of the memory, whatever it reserves, that is it is of type stack. You know that the organization of the memory for the data code as well as extra segment is same. Okay, whereas a stack segment is somewhat different, and hence to indicate that this segment is a stack segment, I have to write here after this segment assembler directive, we are supposed to write here as a stack. Hope you all are getting. Then we are declaring the stack segment something like this, define word. So usually whenever we are performing a push or pop operation, we are performing those operations in words, not in bytes, isn't it? So here we are reserving 100 words, okay, and all of them are initialized to 0. Hope you all are getting. Define word 100. So how many words has to be reserved? 100 words, and dup 0. That means all these 100 words are initialized to 0. Are you able to follow this? Okay. So if I show like this, so this is my stack. Okay. This is a base address of the stack. Now 100 words are there. That means 200 memory locations are there, and all of them are initialized to 0. Now, as we know that stack top label word, the top I am using the last, as we know that even in the code segment, say suppose if I have used some variable name define word 100 dup 0, then next variable name some n2, defined byte something. So that means after 100 memory location, the 101th memory location would be pointed by the next variable, isn't it? So similarly, 100 words are declared into the stack segment. Then this the 101th memory location, which is of I am using the name as stack top. So here I am using the name to represent, I am providing the label as stack top to the 101th memory location, which is of type word. Are you getting this? Hello. Is this thing clear? So we are providing the 101th memory location with the name as stack top. You are providing the label. You are providing the name to that 101th memory location as label. And what does it indicate? Word means what does it indicate? Word. Next E1 address. Okay. So that means the next E1 address after 100 memory location should be labeled with the stack top. Is it clear about the label? Hello. So you can see that stack, the name of this stack segment, you can provide any name. You cannot provide stack, then segment assembler directive, and that should be followed by this stack to indicate that this particular, these 100 words should be provided with the, should be used as a stack, because the organization of the other segments as well as stack segment is different, and hence you have to indicate explicitly that it is a stack segment and the segment ends here. Okay. So the location counter. So the purpose of the instruction location counter is in an assembler are as follows. So just now I have told you that as the instruction pointer is used by the processor, similarly the location counter is used by the assembler. Okay. The location counter checks whether the next available memory location can be assigned within the present segment. Okay, it would check whether the limit is there or not, whether some more data can be assigned or can be provided into this current segment, such as code or data. In other words, it contains the offset of the instruction or the data being assembled. So as the instruction pointer would also contains the offset, similarly the location counter would also contains the offset of the instruction or the data which is to be assembled. Okay. So the current value of the location counter would always be provided with $sign. So if you have observed here, for example, if I have written string 1 defined byte hello, okay, and if I want to find out the length of the string, so at the very, as I said, the $sign indicates the current value of the location counter. So when the assembler is pointing to the next memory location, it would be the $sign. It would indicate with the $sign. So the current value of the $sign minus string 1 minus this offset value of string 1 would give me the length of the string. Is it clear, all of you? If it points at this length 1, so the current location counter, as I said, it is indicated with this $sign, dollar minus string 1. So say suppose the offset value of string 1 is 3. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so and all of them are of type byte. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now what would be the offset value of length 1? What would be the offset value of length 1? Hello. Five. Offset value. There is a difference between offset value and its value. Offset value means what? From the base address, after how much displacement? Yes. From the base address, at what displacement your variable length 1 is there. So as I said, the string 1's offset value is 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So length 1 would offset value would be 8. Do you agree to this? Okay, and that would be indicated by the location counter. Length 1 is having the offset value as 8. So the dollar indicates the current value of this length 1. I mean the offset value of length 1. So 8 minus string 1's offset value is 3. 8 minus 3 would be what? 5. So now the length 1 would have the value as 5. Hope you all are getting. There is a difference between offset value. Offset value is not same as that of the current value of any of the variable. Offset value is nothing but the displacement from the base address of any of the segment. Followed all of you? Okay. So the dollar sign gives the current value of the location counter. It is used to locate the next statement with respect to base. So with respect to base, where is the next statement or next variable present that it would indicate. And by default, the location counter starts from 0. Okay, as we know that whenever a new segment starts, so suppose if I have mentioned before the string 1, if I write here data segment and data ends, so the offset value of string 1 would be what? By default, it would be 0. Are you getting this? Okay. So by default, the offset value would be 0. But if you want to change the default offset value to some other offset value, then you can provide this org assembler directive so that the offset value would change. So for example, here you can see if I write org 10, it implies that my offset value of which is following that org statement should have the value, should be at the displacement of 10 bytes. Is it clear? So to start the location counter at a particular offset address, org assembler directive can be used. By the default offset value is 0. And if you want to change that offset value, you can change it by using this org assembler directive. Okay. When assembling a 3-byte instruction, the location counter will increment by 3 bytes to accommodate the memory needed for the instruction. Okay. So separate location counters are used for different sections of the program. So if I'm having code segment and data segment, so for different segments, we may have different location counter. Okay. So the location counter for the data segment would be different. The location counter for the code segment would also be different. One section is used for code and another for data. Okay, they are fixed during the linking process. While we are linking these segments, so they are fixed. So the location counter is pointed to what address. So that is indicated while we are performing the linking of these segments. Okay, so for example, here you can see that this indicates, it forces the location counter to start at offset address 10. Okay, so this is about the org assembler directive. Fine. So these are some of the assembler directives as well, which are related to the FAR procedure, as well as we have discussed about the location counter. Now we'll try to write a simple a program so that you'll come to know how to write a near procedure or a far procedure. Okay. So do you want me to write a program? Hello. Say, now I'll show you an example of a near procedure first. Then we'll see how to write a far procedure. Right? If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Say, suppose we want to perform a division of 32-bit by 32 bit. So though the two numbers has to be divided, and both of them are 32-bit numbers. Now we don't have any instruction which would perform a 32-bit division with a 32-bit division. Are you getting me? Okay. So a 32-bit 16-bit division can be done with a 16-bit number can be divided by 8-bit, or a 32-bit number can be divided by 16-bit. But you don't have any program in which a 32-bit can be any instruction in which you can divide a 32-bit number by a 32-bit number. That we'll see how to do so. Okay, so assume that I'm having say suppose the name of the variable is NES, and since it is a 32-bit number, I have to declare it as a double word, and say suppose this is my number. Okay, this is my number which I want. This is the dividend, and let the divisor be a word. And okay, so one thing I wanted to tell is, say suppose if you are having a 32-bit number, all of them are F. I mean, all these 32 bits are ones. So it would be F, 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 F. Okay. And if the divisor is 2, then what happens? The quotient would be, the size of the quotient would be too large. Are you getting me? Say suppose if I'm trying to divide a 32-bit number, say F, 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 F. This is my 32-bit number. And if I'm dividing it by 2, quotient would be greater than 16-bit, because as we know that when you are trying to divide a 32-bit number by a 16-bit number, so that 32-bit by 16-bit is done by these two registers. DX colon AX would have the 32-bit number. Okay, so if I'm using div instruction, the 32-bit number should be like this. The higher order 16-bit would be in DX register, the lower order 16-bit would be into the AX register. And if I'm trying to divide by BX, and if the BX value is having the value as 2, then what happens? If I'm trying to divide this, the quotient would be where? Where would be the quotient and where would be the remainder? Quotient would be into the AX and DX contains the remainder. Do you agree to it? Okay. The quotient is in AX and DX contains the remainder. But as we know that the AX is only of 16 bits. So can I have, after dividing by 2, can I have the 16-bit quotient value? No. So if the quotient is too large to be accommodated into the 16 bits, then it may show some error. Got it? So in this program, I am writing here the code, and I'll be going on explaining, and you can note down, or you can, if you have any doubts in this code, you can ask me. Okay. So in this program, we'll see how even if the quotient is too large, then too it would be able to do it. So here what I am doing, the higher order first I'll take the 16 bits, then I'll divide by this. The remainder what I am getting after division, that I am concatenating with this. This is what we do. Say suppose I am having a number 32 which has to be divided by 2. Okay. So what I'll do, first I'll take only 3, the first number. I'll divide this 3 by 2. The quotient would be 1 and the remainder would be 1. Now, the remaining 2 I am copying here. So that means the remainder from the earlier division what I am getting, that I am concatenating with the next number and then I am dividing by 2. This is what the practice what we used to do. The same step I am following. What I'll do, first I'll try to divide the 6537 with 3456. Okay. So once the division is done, the quotient what I am getting, that I'll store somewhere, whereas the remainder what I am getting, that I am concatenating with the next number, and once again I am trying to divide these two numbers. Are you able to understand this? This is what we are trying to do in this particular case. Hello. The algorithm, have you understood? How about this? Okay. So let me write, say first, once if I divide this by this and what the quotient I am getting, I am storing it into some Q1 variable. The second quotient, I can store it into another variable Q2, and the overall remainder I can store into one more variable, say REN, and which is of type word, and t times. Now, whenever we are using the procedure, the stack would be involved, isn't it? Because the IP value, etc., would be pushed onto the stack. So the next step is to initialize a stack segment where the return address or whatever we push, everything should be there onto the stack. So for that, we have to declare the stack segment. So the stack segment, how we have to declare? Say I am writing here the name of the stack segment. Let me give it as my stack. Then segment, as well as to indicate that it is a stack. This part of the segment is a stack. I have to mention here stack. I cannot write here stack segment. Okay. So I have to provide here as a stack. Then some 100 words I am assigning for the stack segment. So define word 100 loop 0. I cannot write define byte here, as always the segment should be of type word here. Then I have to declare some name to the top of the stack. So top st, and I have to provide some label to that. I mean label I am providing as the top st, and it should be at the next even address. So I have to write here word. Then end the stack segment by writing my stack end s. Okay, this is how the stack segment should be declared. Is it clear, everyone? Hello? Hello, is this thing clear? Okay. Now, once we have done, we have to write the code segment. Fine. Then assume apart from CS colon code, DS colon data. Now, I have to initialize the stack segment. So I have to write here SS colon, the name of the stack segment is my stack. Okay. Like this, you have to write in the assume statement. Now, apart from the data segment, DS register, you should also initialize the SS register also. So move AX comma data, move DS comma AX, that we used to write. Similarly, I should also write move AX comma my stack and move SS comma AX. Okay. And similarly, I should also write, I have to initialize the stack pointer with this top st. So move SP comma top ST. Okay, so this thing you have to initialize the stack segment register as well as even the stack pointer register. Is this thing clear, everyone? Okay, this is how you have to initialize the SS register as well as you have to initialize the stack pointer register. And the declaration of the stack should be the way what we have seen here. Is it clear, everyone? Now, once we have done this, say LEA, SI, comma MES. So here SI is pointing to this variable named MES, and since it is a double word, okay, so we are SI register is pointing to this particular variable. Fine. Now once we have done, I am pushing the divisor value onto the stack. So here you can see that this is my stack segment SS, this is my top ST, and SS is pointing to the base address. Push divisor, so divisor is pushed here, so divisor is placed here, that is 3, 4, 5, 6 would be placed onto this top of the stack, and the stack pointer would be decremented by 2. First the stack pointer would be decremented by 2 and it would place these two divisor value onto the stack. Now the next DS colon SI, as we know that this 6537543A is there, so how it would be placed into the memory, you know, into the data segment, how it would be placed? Since it is a double word, how it would be placed? At 0th offset value, what would be placed? At the 0th offset value, 56. Yes, it Dave is right. It would be stored as 3A, 54, 37, and 65. Are you getting this? So our aim is to first divide the 6537, isn't it? So in the data segment, it would be stored in this manner: 3A, then 54. At the offset 0, we will have 3A. At offset 1, we will have 54. At 2, we will have 37. And at 3, we will have 65. Okay. So this is how it would be stored. Now, if I write push SI, DS colon SI, I can write. So what happens here? The memory which is pointed by SI, so SI is pointing to this 0th memory location. So that would be pushed onto the stack. So here it would push 3A and 54 onto the stack, and the stack pointer would be pointing to the, it would be decremented by 2. Now, once again, I'll write push DS colon. Now, what should be the offset which we want to push? SI plus 2. Yes, very good. Okay. So, DS colon SI plus 2. So that would also be pushed onto the stack. So here the next 2 bytes would be pushed onto the stack, and then the procedure would be called. So call, say, division. Okay. And then I am ending my program int03. Fine. Then I have to write the procedure division proc. So since I am having a near procedure, I can write here division proc near. The rest of the thing, because the time is up and sir is waiting, I'll write down this code. The rest of the thing we'll see in the next lecture. Hope how to declare the stack segment, how to initialize SS registers, etc. You all are clear with these things? Okay. So in the next class, we'll see the remaining part of this program, or we'll execute this program, and we'll see the example of a FAR procedure, how to write a FAR procedure, that we'll see in the next lecture. Okay. So thank you.